Hi girls and guys, your friend Ben Campbell here, and welcome to episode 2 of the Didn't You Have That When You Were 12 podcast. The podcast where I chat to other retro game collectors about their collections, about why they collect, how they got into collecting, the holy grails in their collections. Why do I do this? Well, I've been playing games all my life. I grew up with the Commodore 64, but I've only been collecting retro games for the last 2 years, so I'm relatively new to the scene, and ever since moving to Australia, I have wanted to learn more about how other people collect, what they collect, and generally I just love nerding out about retro gaming. So this podcast is a bit of an excuse for that, and I hope that you guys enjoy going on this journey with me as I explore other people's collections. So without further ado, I will kick into episode 2 where I chat to the delightful Darren Borg from Retro Domination. Retro Domination is a retro gaming website and podcast which Daz is heavily involved in. I recommend you check out Retro Domination and the podcast. I've posted links below, so please do that when you have 5 minutes or once you finish listening to this wonderful podcast. So without further ado, here is the chat I had with Daz. Enjoy. You know what I'm really enjoying about the retro gaming scene and how it's sort of really kind of erupted? The fact that it's giving voices back to these stars that we loved as kids, you know, the guys who programmed in their bedrooms, who programmed all the Commodore 64 games and started that sort of home computer scene, and how it's given them, not lease a life, that's the wrong wording, but like giving them a new platform,
appreciation.
For people. Yes,
too. I think it's good. It shows appreciation for what they did, and I remember first speaking to Ben Daglish, you know, who that is.
Yes, very much so.
Composer of The Last Ninja.
Yes.
We had him on the Retro Domination podcast about 3 years ago, and I was like a little kid. I mean, I was like blah, 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 blah. I couldn't talk to him. And it was, I mean, he was such the nicest person. I was like, I can't believe I'm talking to this guy. And, you know, it's just, speaking to your heroes, you know what I mean? I mean, I was lucky enough. It was last year that John Hare was actually coming down to Melbourne for a holiday, and we obviously had him on the podcast prior to that, and he touched base with myself and Matthew Cawley. He goes, "I'm coming down to Melbourne. Hope to meet up." Go, oh, cool. So unfortunately, Matt was in the States on a holiday during the time, but I mean, I spent the whole night in Melbourne. It was just me. It was myself and John eating Vietnamese, drinking beer, and having a laugh, walking down the city. We ended up going to McDonald's as well, having a coffee, and it was just amazing. I'm like, I can't believe I'm talking and hanging with this guy. He's such a, you know, this is the guy that brought us Megalomania, Cannon Fodder, Sensible Soccer, and I'm like, this is so cool. And, you know, and I thank retro gaming for all this, because there's no way in hell that I would be able to experience anything like this without retro gaming.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I think also, like, you know, social media, the fact that we have things like YouTube, Twitter, the fact that we can podcast and talk and we're able to share things has really opened up avenues that a lot of these programmers, a lot of these designers, these creators probably never ever expected would ever happen to them in terms of having the fandom accessible for them. You know, these guys, knowing that they've inspired or brought joy to men and women over a period of 30 plus years, in some cases, you know, must be equally as rewarding for them as it is for you walking down the street or having a coffee with them in a Macca's. You know, it's great, and it's so lovely that they're willing to. These guys are willing to have a chat and hang out and you know, all that kind of stuff. It's it's very heartwarming, and it just adds a whole extra element to retro gaming, which I hope will continue, man, because that's great. So you guys, so you obviously kept it clean. Then you didn't go to any strip clubs or anything like that. There's no nefarious stories. You could
no, it was just two blokes having a laugh, and it was cool. It was quite funny, actually.
How did it go today? First day on the new job.
Yes. Yeah, it was interesting. I learnt a lot, and well, firstly, I'm working in the arcade amusement industry now, so
Hmm.
it's a dream actually to be involved in something like this. I never thought I'd be involved in this as my job, considering I come from a pen pusher, you could say, background. Working in the law firm for 9 years, and
So that was what you're doing previous to taking on this job, then?
pretty much, yeah, I did that for 9 years. Then I got another job in a print room
Hmm.
because I just had enough. Law firms can get a bit stressful,
Hmm.
and then this position came along, and yeah, so I thought, bugger it. My wife said, do it, and I said, okay, I'll do it.
So living the
So
dream now. That's amazing.
just a friend actually asked me and said, look, there's this position available at this place, and I thought, wow, okay, this is something that I'd never thought I'd encounter, especially that I just got a new job
Mm.
prior to this one, and I was only there for 9 months. So and yeah, that was pretty much it, and everything just worked out. When I went for my interview, and I guess they were pretty happy with me and my attitude, and obviously my background in gaming, in the gaming industry with PAX and the website, Retro Domination.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
So I think that did help a lot because I think they wanted someone with a lot of passion.
uh-huh.
So yeah, and they saw that I was willing to learn new things and get on the technical side of gaming, you could say.
Okay,
And
so you
yeah.
you hadn't been so had you done any sort of like arcade fix up jobs, personal home projects prior to taking on this gig? I mean, did you have any kind of did you tinker at all before getting this role, or?
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, I'd say about just over 10 years ago, I was actually given a Street Fighter cabinet.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a person I knew that owned a computer store in a local suburb, and I used to just go past and just buy parts and computer parts, video cards, etc. And we ended up getting along really well. So then I used to just rock up to his computer store and wouldn't buy anything. I would just stay there for hours and we'd be just talking crap all day. And we ended up becoming really good friends. And he said to me, he goes, oh, I've got a couple of arcade machines at home. Look, don't have any room. I'm willing to give you one. I go, how much? It's just you can take it. And I was like,
Oh my gosh, a
wow,
free arcade machine. That's amazing.
yeah. Anyway, so we arranged a time and a date, obviously, and I went over to his house, and he goes, "Oh, this is it." And it was a little low boy, and it had Snow Brothers in it,
Nice.
and it's just a little small cab, and the screen on it was magnificent. And he goes, "Oh, I got this one. You can take this if you like." But he goes, "But I've got another one in the back." I go, "Okay." And it was a Street Fighter Championship cab, and I'm like, "Wow, I'll take this." He goes, "Oh, the screen isn't the best," and I looked at it; it was fine. I go, "Yeah, I don't care." It was Street Fighter, so I took that. Yeah, I ended up getting a board for it, and yeah, so I started from there, just tinkering, and I got it working. So that was really cool. And then I ended up selling that once I moved house,
Hmm.
and yeah, and now I've got geez, since then I've probably owned about maybe 7 cabs,
Wow.
but
Okay.
not in total, like in total, but I've never had 7 cabs at once. And now I've probably got about three now, and I tinker with them here and there and do little things.
So, sorry, you said you got you got three machines now in the games room.
Yes.
What machines do you still have?
Well, I've got a Street Fighter 2 now again,
Nice.
with a hyper board.
Uh-huh.
I've got also an upright it's got a vertical screen in it, but it's got
Hmm.
401 carts in there.
Okay.
So it's got like Tempest in there, it's a Donkey Kong. It's got a lot of cave shmups in there, and they run really well.
Uh-huh.
Really good shooters in there, Twin Cobras in there, etc. And I've got another low boy that I just use for swapping boards. So I've got a fair few jammer boards as well, so I can just swap the games over. And yeah, and just recently I purchased a Neo Geo jammer board.
Uh-huh.
So I've got Metal Slug 2 on that, and Top Hunter, I think the other one was.
Amazing.
So yeah, so that's pretty much me for my arcades. I mean, look, I wish I could have more. Now seeing I've got this new job, hopefully I can one day purchase a pinball machine. But that's a long way off, I think.
Well, the thing about like collecting the arcades and the pennies is the fact that you just got to have the room for them as well. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
like you got to think about what you're going to sacrifice to have that one cab or that penny in the corner. It's it's a more of a logistical issue rather than sometimes rather than a cost thing, because if you see a machine you really love, then it's kind of like, money's no object, forget it. Exactly. I just want this. Yeah. Man, well, look, I've got a few arcade machines as well, but we can nerd out about those later on. But that's brilliant, man. Congratulations on the new job. That sounds so exciting.
Thank you.
It really does.
Thank you very much.
When did you sort of, as an adult, kind of think, you know what, I'm going to revisit this and I'm going to start sort of getting back into this and start collecting for serious?
Okay, well, this is going back probably when I was 20, maybe 22, 23. I just got married.
Okay.
And I'm going to be 38 this year, so I've been collecting for a while. Yeah, I'd say about 23. I amassed a heap load of Mega Drive games, a lot. And even Master System, I had a lot of Master System games, and I'd say a few years after that, I did sell a lot of them. I was like, you know what, I don't have the room, I don't have the time, I really can't be bothered, and I had, my wife was pumping out the kids and all that. You just don't have time. I mean, especially when you have kids. I mean, that's your first and foremost. You dedicate your life to that first. And I was getting into that. It's like I just kept like my crown jewels. I mean, I kept my Castlevania New Generation, for example, on my Mega Drive, and that I mean, at one stage I had 2 copies of that complete, and I bought them for $40 each back then. Now you can't get one for under maybe $150. It's crazy. Collecting still Commodore 64 stuff. I've still got everything from when I was a kid. All of it's still box mint. I mean, I was looking through some of them, and I've still got like the posters that came with them or badges, and they still smell new.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I was very lucky that, and I was very lucky my mum didn't throw them away. Because usually the parents will go there and they'll look at all the shit that you've left. Sorry, can I swear?
Of course, of course.
Yeah. Well, the shit, you could say it's shit because you leave, you move, and then usually the parents are like, oh, we don't need this crap, just throw it away without asking. And she actually did throw away, I reckon, a box of pirated discs, which I'm spewing about because, they were still games, you know what I mean? But thankfully, she kept all my original discs in my boxes. So
that's incredibly lucky because, like, when it is the first thing that kind of goes when the folks kind of clear out the loft or clear out the garage or whatever. It's like, do you
Exactly.
want this old box of video games? And it's a bit like, nah, I haven't got room. Again, it's always down to room when you're growing up. Especially, when you hit your sort of mid-20s, hitting your 30s, you just think about how much space have I got to actually keep anything? And that's when we all kind of like tend to get rid of stuff. And the video games are always the first things on the sort of to get rid of list, or to take, or back in the day, go down to the car boot sale or whatever. So that's really, I mean, I've got to say, I'm really in awe of the fact that you still have your original C64 collection. That sounds absolutely spectacular because I wish I still had mine. That would be amazing. Like, and you're a fellow Last Ninja fan as well. And I've seen the picture of your collection, which brought a tear to my eye because I absolutely adore The Last Ninja. In fact, I think The Last Ninja is the game that still resonates with me completely from my childhood years. So it's safe to say then that the Commodore 64, is that kind of the system that's closest to your heart, or do you have another system that you tend to go to?
Oh, look, 100% it is. I've even considered getting a Commodore 64 tattoo on my arm.
Oh my gosh, okay, that's commitment. That's commitment there.
Yeah, but it's like I haven't even got a tattoo yet, so like I don't know if I could get that as my first tat, but yeah, it is. It is my number one love. It is. I mean, it's probably not one of the things I play the most, but even just when I look at the damn thing, it makes me feel good. And
are we talking about are we talking about the bread bin, or are we talking about the second sort of version?
The C actually, because I got this, and I still have my original C and it still works beautifully. I was actually quite lucky. About a year ago, a friend of my sister's gave me a boxed bread bin.
Oh, nice.
Well.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Mints, yep. So that's a spare, and I now own a C128 as well. It's a bit fiddly. I've had to get a new SID chip for it, but it's got a few video problems which I've got to have a look at. So that's all my C64 Commodore stuff. Yeah, I mean, I actually started on the Atari 2600, and then went to the Commodore 64. Then straight after that, it was all girls and music because I was in a band. And, that's why I'm actually quite surprised I kept all my C64 stuff because I was not into gaming for a long time. But I ended up going straight to the Mega Drive after that.
So what kind of music and how many bands and what kind of stuff did you end up doing? How give me a bit of an insight into your musical career, man.
Oh wow! Do you have like 3 hours?
Okay, well maybe abbreviated, abridged version, maybe.
Okay. Well, I started playing drums when I was 13. Playing in the normal high school band and playing all the orchestra pieces and all. I actually started on the timpanis and then went on to the drums, and had a couple of school bands here and there. I was pretty happy with myself and how I was progressing in drumming, and then probably when I was about 17, 18. I discovered a band called The Gathering. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're from the Netherlands.
I've never heard of them either.
They're a gothic. They're probably one of the first gothic metal bands ever with a female lead.
Right.
It was a certain style. They're unbelievable. And I heard this band and I was just in awe. And I go, I want to do a band like this. And when I was 18, a friend of mine, his girlfriend was an opera singer. So I asked her, I go, you keen on being in a gothic metal band? And she goes, what the hell's that? And I go, well, it's this. And she's like, wow, okay. And then just rallied up, just friends through friends. We've got we found some members. And it wasn't that we copied this band, but we tried to make it our own. And I could probably honestly say we're probably I wouldn't say Australia because I don't know, but I'd say we were probably the very first gothic metal bands in Victoria. We were doing stuff before Nightwish came out. Have you heard of Nightwish?
Yes, of course. Yeah, definitely, very much so. Yeah.
Our music ended up sounding a lot like Nightwish, not as intense, and the production level of Nightwish is crazy, but we were doing stuff before they were actually out, and it was just freaking me out when we heard Nightwish. We were like, this is us. You know what I mean? So, after that, I mean, they're called Enter Twilight, the band. They're actually still going now, funny enough, with the original singer.
Okay.
But, they've reformed, and good on them too, I had to leave. I met my wife at the time, and I didn't have the time anymore. So I left, and then after that, I was like, what am I going to do? And that's where Retro Domination comes in.
Right,
pretty much.
Okay. So, well, just before we get into Retro Domination, which I'm very keen to talk to you about, and obviously the podcast that you host with Alex as well, the Let's Play on Tape podcast. Just going back to the music and sort of your background in music. Is I guess the question that everybody wants to know is there any footage or demos or recordings or anything available online? Can we actually kind of see any kind of anything on YouTube or anything like that of this past career that we have just unearthed and told? Is there?
Yes,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Dude, you must send me some links after we've recorded this, and then I'll put them in the bottom of the description in the SoundCloud and the YouTube page. That'd be great. And plus, I want to see them anyway, so please do email them through, man. That would be cool. The other question about the music, before we talk about Retro Domination, is
that's fine.
So does that mean then, obviously, so you have a love of music, you must have a great love of video game music. So when it comes to video game music, with your background as a musician, what would you say would be some of your top soundtracks? Not in any particular order either.
Okay, well, I'll give you an order. I'd say the best soundtrack for me ever is Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation and Sega Saturn.
Okay, fair enough. Yep.
It is. That's a masterpiece.
See, I didn't know whether you were going to suddenly go, I can't betray the SID chip, the great SID chip with the great kind of chunky sound, or whether it was going to be like something on the SNES or maybe the Amiga. But that's cool. Yeah. That is a great soundtrack, man. That's awesome.
I'd say anything from Jerome Tell, if you want to go back to the SID chip. The Myth soundtrack is just phenomenal. Love it, absolutely love it. Streets of Rage. soundtrack, 1 and 2.
1 and 2. So
well.
Disregarding the third one a little bit, or
third one was okay. Nothing stood out with that. You know,
it's
what I mean?
not. Yeah, I agree. It's not quite as iconic as the other two.
I'd say probably also Super Metroid on the SNES.
You know, I hate to say it, I've not actually played Super Metroid. I feel ashamed of myself. I've only played Metroid on the NES, but not Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo. So
okay. This interview is finished.
Fair enough. That's it. Daz drops the mic. He walks out and he slams the door behind him. He's done, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening.
Ben, no, seriously, you really need to find a few hours of your time and plug that baby in. Play it on an emulator even. You need to play that game. I mean, I'm a big Sega fan. I'm not much of a Nintendo fan at all. But Super Metroid, and I have to say this, for me is the best 16-bit title ever.
Okay.
On any system. For me, that is the best 16-bit game ever made.
Okay.
I personally think so. It's a big statement, I know, but you know, that's just the way I feel about it. I think it's phenomenal.
This is what this podcast is all about, man. It's all about big statements for games that we all dig. So that's cool. I mean, funnily enough, I actually lost out on a bidding war for a big boxed Super Metroid on eBay a few weeks ago because you know, we all have our limits, I guess, when we're buying games, and it's on my to get list for the collection for sure. But yeah, I tell you what, as soon as I've actually plugged it in, as soon as I actually get a copy and plug it in and play it, you'll be the first person that I'll be hitting up to say, "Oh my god, you were right!" Or "What are you talking about, man? It doesn't beat." I don't know. I have no idea what my favourite 16-bit game is. I'm still a massive fan of Strider, but I think Strider doesn't really kind of... I've seen Super Metroid gameplay, and I don't think it sort of keeps... visually, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, that's cool, man. I will definitely check that out. That's cool. So yes, Retro Domination. So you are... Fill me in, because I've obviously checked out the website, I listened to the podcast. I believe Retro Domination is part of Console Domination. How does this all work? Tell me a little bit about it, dude.
Okay, well, I'll go from the start.
Okay.
It goes way back in 2012. Jeez, already, it's just freaky. I was obviously friends with Tim, part of the podcast, and he was doing just YouTube videos, just retro videos. And a gentleman from Console Domination contacted him and said he really liked his videos and he'd like him to do a retro section on Console Domination.
Okay.
And Tim shows me this email. He goes, "What do you think?" He goes, "What's this Console Domination?" I go, "I don't know. I've never heard of them." He goes, "What do you reckon?" I go, "Yeah, well, he's reaching out, you know, do it." And coincidentally, this young gentleman was Pete, who was part of the podcast as well, and which is one of our best friends now. And so that's where it started. I mean, Tim just started doing retro YouTube videos on Console Domination, and then Tim was jumping on the Console Domination podcast, and then Tim got me on there a couple of times, and then Pete goes, "We should do a retro podcast. What do you think?" And I was like, "Oh, you know, I don't have the knack for podcasting," and I was too shy for that. And Tim goes, "Oh no, we'll do it." So anyway, we did a retro podcast for Console Domination, and we had a host there. His name was Paul Barbara. He was a host of the Console Domination at the time of the podcast. Pete, it was myself and Tim, and we did 2 episodes, and things were going really well. And then we ended up just doing it as Retro Domination, and we pretty much become like a sister site to Console Domination. So that's pretty much how it began. Now we're our own entities, but we're under the Console Domination network. This team that we have now, the 5 of us, have been together since episode 5.
Right.
That's what actually is the team.
And what episode are you guys on now?
We just did episode 89.
Oh my gosh! Okay, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All up, we've got about 95, I think, because we've got unnumbered podcasts as well. When we interviewed the Oliver twins, for example, or John Hare, you know, we've done little side
very nice
podcasts. You know what I mean? So yeah. So what really, in theory, another 11 more, we've got 100. So
God,
it takes a lot of commitment, and you know, and I really thank the team because look, I mean, we really work really well together, and it helps that we're all friends. in the real world. You know what I mean? So we can all, we can all give each other shit, and no one will cry in the corner. I mean, like poor Matthew Corley, he cops so much crap from us, especially on the podcast, and he's a trooper. He just laughs it off and have a laugh. Mark is our quiet person in the team, but when he lets it rip, you better be careful. He's quick. He's quick. So we all bring something to the table. You know what I mean? So yeah.
How would you pitch the Retro Domination podcast to the world?
Just a bunch of guys talking crap.
Fair enough. I mean, and
That's pretty much it.
Who doesn't want to listen to that, man? I mean,
Exactly. It's just us having a conversation, having a laugh. We're just ourselves. We're not there to, make ourselves look bigger than anyone else or ourselves, and we're just there for a laugh, and that's why we do it, and that's why I think we've lasted this long. Is that it's natural. It's nothing's fake. We're just there having a laugh. I mean, all day we're at work, busting our butts. We jump on the podcast. We finally get to catch up and talk.
Yeah.
So that's why it's working. The website's more of a home for the podcast.
Right.
So more or less. I mean, we do write up articles. Like Tim just wrote up an article on Comic-Con. That was just on the weekend.
I saw that. Oh man, I was gutted to miss that. That looks so much fun. I can't get over the cosplay, especially looked really good this year.
No, they were really, really good. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we don't do like daily news or the latest news coming out. We just pretty much just do that on our Facebook page. I mean, it just takes a lot of time, and we can't commit that time. You know what I mean? So instead of putting 100% into the website, we put 100% into the podcast. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does.
It's just too hard to really put 100% into everything. And look, we care about our website and we love it, and I'll chuck up an article here and there, and Mark might do one. Corley rips out the occasional retro, current gen retro gaming review. You know what I mean? But if anyone wants to get our podcast, that's where you go. The Press Play and Tape podcast is there as well. Also, the Plus Reader Geekdom podcast that Tim and Mark do.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I've been meaning to check that one out actually, because that's more your pop culture podcast. Yeah. So, can you put a year on when you actually started collecting again seriously? When you were like, I'm going to do this as a serious sort of a hobby that turned into a passion, that turned into a livelihood, man.
Okay. Well, it was more than 4 years ago. I'd say probably about 8 years, 7-8 years.
Oh wow, okay, that's
7
cool.
years ago, yeah. So I've got close to 200 complete boxed games.
Wow, okay, that's cool.
And I probably got about 150 Master System. So I was more focusing on the Sega consoles. The Saturn, I've got probably only about 40, 50 games, not many there, because they're quite pricey. But I was dedicated to trying to get as many Sega games as I could. And I'm at that stage now. It's like, I don't need any more. I've pretty much got all the ones I need. Back then, what else? I remember purchasing when I first got married. I bought a TurboGrafx 16 from the States.
Nice.
So and I actually regret selling that because it was boxed, minty, everything. And
oh gosh, that must have been that. Was there a good reason behind the sale of that, or?
I didn't really play it much. I used to just play the Mega Drive. I'd thrash the Mega Drive. I would always just play the Mega Drive all the time. And it's like, oh, I need the money. I'm just going to sell it. And I regretted it soon after that and ended up buying a PC Engine. I thought, well, I'm going to go the Japanese route and get a PC Engine. There was more games for it. It was cheaper. And it had the AV, input, output, sorry. The TurboGrafx 16 was only RF. And it cost me an extra $100 just to buy an AV adapter for it. So that left a bad taste in my mouth. It's like, I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So that's partly why I got rid of it as well. But I do regret it now. But I've got a PC Engine now, and I clicked for that a lot. I've got a CD add-on for that. Oh, geez, that was pretty much my start.
Okay.
The C64 was packed up pretty much, but I still kept it minty fresh. you know what I mean?
Well preserved.
Yes, yeah.
So okay. So the Mega Drive collection, then you're done. So you're not like or you're near to done, say maybe. So
Yeah.
but you haven't gone out to collect the entire back catalogue or anything like that. It's mainly your. So would you say when it comes to your collection and it comes to the retro game collection you're creating, is it more you're just collecting the games you want to play rather than collecting to complete, or just getting that because it's a rare gem? Or
At the start, it was like, oh, I want to get rare games. But then it was like, I bought a couple. I'm like, you know what? I'm not playing them. What's the friggin' point? And I only collect games that I know I'm going to play. There's no point. I mean, I guess every collector is different. I personally don't see the point of just trying to finish a game collection. I don't want 10 copies of FIFA.
yeah.
That doesn't interest me.
You don't. It's the shelf space as well. There's no point having that many games. You want to have games there that you're going to be able to pull off and play.
Exactly.
Rather than just say, look, I've got this incomplete set, and they're just going to live on the shelf and just gather dust and whatever. You know. There's not as much joy behind that as there is, having a game that you want to play. Yeah.
So yeah, I just buy the games that I really want. I mean, at the start it was like, yeah, I'll buy anything willy-nilly. Then it was like, what am I doing? I'm wasting my money. I'm not going to play them. And there's probably half of them I haven't even played because it was just ones I found, just because they were cheap. Like, I won't even spend $5 on a Mega Drive game if I don't have it. And if I don't want, like, if it's FIFA, I'm not gonna pay for $5 for that. I'm not gonna play it. It's just gonna fill space on my shelf. So yeah, I mean, look, I have been suckered into the rarity games. Like for example, there's a game, but I actually love it. It's called the Popful Mail. It's on the Sega Mega Drive. Mega CD, Sega CD. And it's very Wonder Boy Monsterlandish, and that's probably one of my favorite game series.
Okay.
So I thought I really liked this, and that set me back a pretty penny, and it only came out in Japan and US. And the Sega CD I have is the Sega CD. I don't actually have the PAL version. I've got the US one for that reason, so I can play the imports. Yeah. So okay. So I was lucky enough to find that Final Fight CD. I got the US version. So a Flink as well. I don't know if you've heard of Flink. Have you played that before?
I've not heard of Flink, but yeah, I have heard of Final Fight. I do have a copy of Final Fight on my Mega CD. Oh my god, it's one of the best side-scrolling beat-em-ups ever. And the Mega CD version has to be the best port of the arcade machine, surely, on a 16-bit system.
I honestly agree,
anyway,
yes.
Yeah. Sorry, but anyway, Flink. Tell me about Flink.
Flink. Well, you need to play Flink. I mean, it only was released in the UK in here as a cart.
Right.
But then it was only released, I think, on the Sega CD in the States, and I think there was an Australian version. I don't know if it was out in the UK, but they did release it on the Mega CD, but it was more prominent in the US, and it is a really good version. So
okay.
I've got both.
What's the game itself? Because I've never actually heard of Flink. So
the creators were Synoxis, Shadow of the Beast people. It's a platform game. But it's a beautiful platform game. You play like a little wizard, you could say. Okay. And it's sort of a Mario-ish type game, but it's how can I say? It's really hard to explain. It's its own game. It's different. I do recommend you try and play that. It's very pretty. That's all I can say. It looks like a 32-bit game.
Okay.
Something like that to look like on a Mega Drive is like, wow. I mean, the SNES got pushed a lot with graphics wise, like Donkey Kong Country looked like a 32-bit game. I wouldn't have thought that a Mega Drive could push itself this hard, and it looks amazing.
Okay. I'm definitely going to add that to the list then. That's going on the wish list for sure. Okay, cool. Flink. I'll check it out. So hold on a second. Would you say that? Hold on. So in terms of the graphical ability, then is that mainly seen on the Mega CD version over the cart version?
They look the same.
They look the same. Okay, all right, interesting. Because it's a bit like the Terminator is so different between the cart version and the Mega CD version. It's ridiculous, but not the case for this game then.
No. With the Sega CD version, there's an extra level, and the music is different.
Yeah, okay. As a lot of the Mega CD games are, because they basically just sound like their CD quality soundtracks, and it's ridiculous. I got Spider-Man for the Mega CD, and I remember when I was a kid, I had it on the Mega Drive, and the biggest difference for me, I mean, I'm sure there's a gazillion other ones, but I've not looked into them yet, is the soundtrack. The soundtrack for the Amazing Spider-Man on the Mega CD is insane. It's a proper hair metal sort of power ballady style sort of soundtrack.
Very Poison.
Yeah, a little bit of Whitesnake as well, I'd say, thrown in there.
Oh, nice.
It's good. It's good. I mean, if you've not played or seen or heard, then check it out, man. That's good fun as well. So, okay, all right, interesting, because the PC Engine is a piece of kit that I'm actually interested in getting at some point. So what would you recommend for a novice like me who's seen the PC Engine? Seen what a beautiful machine it is from videos on YouTube, what would you recommend as a little quick buyer's guide?
Okay, like which version to buy, etc.
Yeah, because you can get, like you said, the TurboGrafx, correct me if I'm wrong, was that the PAL version and the PC Engine was the Japanese version, or is the Japanese version, should I say?
Yes and no, because the TurboGrafx was only released in the States and in the UK. It was never released in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah. But look, I personally would think you should get probably a Core Graphics 2.
Okay.
Of a PC Engine. Yeah, it's a small. I mean, you can get it for about $100 to $80.
Okay.
And yeah, and you can and for power wise, you can just use a Mega Drive PSU. Okay. So there's no step down required for that.
Okay.
And you can get an AV cable for it. So that just sorts out all your problems.
Okay.
And then it's just finding the good games cheap enough to play on them.
Right, and they're card based. They're actually kind of like the sort of credit card based sort of games as well, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
See, I've seen so many videos of the system, and that it just seems like a minefield. All the different versions they are. Okay, that's going to go on to the get list as well. I think this get list is going to get quite big by the end of this podcast. So Mega Drive, when you were growing up, then what was your kind of go-to game as a kid then?
Okay, well, firstly, I didn't have a Mega Drive for a while. I didn't get it upon release. My best friend had it, so I would go over to his house. So I only had to play what he played.
Okay,
and the games that we would just absolutely adore and love was Sort of Vermilion. It was really good. Yeah. Playing it now, it's quite dated, but I love it. It just takes me back. Streets of Rage 1, back in the day I loved.
Yeah.
What else? Phantasy Star 2, we used to play. I was never that good at that, to be honest. Sonic, obviously.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Who was your go-to on Streets of Rage 1? Were you a Blaze?
Blaze.
Yeah.
Blaze.
I was a Blaze too. I mean, what is it? I mean, it's basically because she has a miniskirt and she kicks a lot.
She's hot.
And
She's hot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, we were teenage boys at the time. We can admit
That's right, exactly.
What else?
Oh, wow, you got me thinking. Because I'm trying to think back then. Golden Axe, obviously. I was still stuck on my C64 at that time, and I was going insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to have dreams. Actually, it's quite wrong because he had the Master System first, and I'm backtracking now. Sorry.
Sorry.
Because obviously you would have played. Please tell me you played Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap.
You're gonna hate me.
Wow.
I have never because no.
Oh no, there's no excuse, Ben.
I know. This is gonna be the third time you're walking out this podcast interview. I feel like I've let you down, Daz. I've let you down. No, because when I was a kid, it was a bit similar case to you. My mate had a Commodore 64. I used to go and play around on his machine quite often. Then my parents eventually got a Commodore 64 in our household, and then our next machine wasn't it was a Mega Drive, in fact, and then it was an Amiga, and then I think I bought a PlayStation 1, and then I think my mid-20s I got a SNES for the hell of it, and I got rid of it. So I never really played on the Master System or even the NES when I was a kid. So yeah, Wonder Boy it just went by me completely. And in fact, I played the arcade. I've actually got a Wonder Boy board. I've got an arcade board for the original Wonder Boy, but I played it for the first time probably about a year ago on the arcade. So yeah, I hate to say Wonder Boy is I am a novice when it comes to Wonder Boy. I'll make this promise to you, Daz. I will play the original Master System version before playing the remake, just so I get the proper education. And next time I see you, you can ask me, and I'll be able to say, yes, I finally played the game. I'm sorry.
So you will freak out. You will freak out for an 8-bit game on how beautiful the game looks. Now, I'm going to make another big statement here, like I did with the Super Metroid.
Do it.
I personally think that Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap is the best looking 8-bit game created. It's not the best 8-bit game, but the best 8-bit looking game.
8-bit looking game. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Mario 3 has nothing on it. That's all I can say.
Interesting as well. We all know that the Master System obviously graphically was superior to the NES. And a lot of the games are prettier for sure. But interesting, bold statement. I like this. I like these bold statements because I'm now trying to rack my brain for a counter argument to that. And I'm struggling a little bit, if I'm honest.
Controversial.
I know. I'm actually looking at my collection, just thinking, what have I got that I could throw up there as a potential? I don't know.
You won't have anything, Ben. I'm sorry.
That's it. Okay, fine. I'm going to keep that thought rummaging in the back of my mind until the end of the podcast, and I might be able to pull a game out because I don't know, man. Graphically, yeah, because that's the wonderful thing about the Wonder Boy games is that they are very colourful, bright, and fun to look at.
Yeah.
Interesting. But what about gameplay though? I presume it's very playable.
It's top tier.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very Metroidvania, you could say.
Oh, interesting.
Before there was Metroidvania.
Okay, interesting mix. I like that.
Yeah.
Because I always found that with the because I love the Master System, and I really enjoy collecting for the Master System as well. Because the games. I don't know if you find this, but I find, or certainly I found this back in the UK. But the Master System games are still kind of affordable. They're not kind of crazy prices.
Yeah.
I managed to there's a few shops in London that do have a retro section. The Master System games are always really more than reasonably priced, but also they had really good ports of some arcade games as well that I found were superior to the NES versions. Like, for instance, Operation Wolf and Rampage on the Master System are freaking great, man.
Yeah,
I love those
totally
versions.
agree.
And obviously Shinobi, I think, is a class act as well in terms of an arcade port onto that 8-bit system. But yeah, I'm stalling now because I'm still trying to think about what a better graphic 8-bit game would be. But I think I'm gonna bow to your knowledge there, man. I think I'll have to get myself a copy of this game. Right, that's gonna go on the to get list as well.
Yeah.
But why is we talking about the Master System then? So Wonder Boy 3 and the Wonder Boy game series, then that's your go-to on the Master System.
Yes.
So I'm presuming you have all those games in mint conditions, complete in box.
Yes, and signed.
Oh my god, signed! I love this.
By Raiichi Nishizawa, the creator.
Oh my gosh, when did you get to meet him?
I was quite lucky. Oh, I got talking to him, and he was nice enough for him to sign them for me. And I sent up a few covers, and he signed them for me. And he's just a gentleman.
Wow.
And I was gobsmacked. I didn't think he'd do anything like that. But yeah, I mean, we also interviewed him for the website as well, so you can check an interview there if you like. And and what's great with that, he's involved with these latest reboots and stuff too. So yeah, I do own. I own nearly every single Wonder Boy game. I still need to get I still need to get a few on the PC Engine.
Okay, so cross-platform.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Oh well, signed games. Now I'm really into this because I've got lots of signed film memorabilia and all that kind of stuff. But signed games are actually something that I've started to sort of dabble in as well. But I got to say my signed game is well, I'll tell you what it is after you tell me. I'll show you yours. I'll show you yours. Okay. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. So what else have you got in terms of your signed games? Yeah.
Not games wise, but I've got obviously signed posters from John Hare. I've got a signed game. I've got Jack the Nipper 2 signed by Ben Dalglish.
Oh my god, amazing! I love that game. It's great.
Yeah, I love that game. Yeah, it's a great game. Tim Schafer signed my Psychonauts. So
Awesome.
I've got that. I know I'm forgetting another one, and I can't remember what it is.
What's your ultimate piece of memorabilia? If you could, looking at your games room now, if you could get one thing signed, but they have to be living, not dead.
Okay.
What game and who would be signing it?
Wow, that's a hard question.
Oh man, I'm full of hard questions this evening.
That is a really hard question. Okay, can I pick two things?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. My Myth History of the Making on disc, signed by Jerome Tell. I
Uh-huh.
would love to get that signed. Um, wow, this is a hard question.
It's probably one you haven't really. I mean, if I'm fair, probably not really thought about, or have
No,
you?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
I think we should start a trend, Daz. We're going to start a trend of what
Yeah.
would be your prized bit of retro kit, game or machine otherwise that you'd like to see signed.
Okay, one more thing. What should I do? What should I pick? Actually, you know what? Because I love Sega so much, I wish I could get my Mega Drive signed by Tom Kalinske.
Wow, okay, that'd be very cool. My piece of signed retro gaming memorabilia, which I've only just actually started collecting, is very obscure, and it is a copy of, I think the game's called Death Star Interceptor, which was Mark Cale's first or second piece of programming that he did for the Commodore 64. Mark Cale, obviously
Okay.
being the creator of the Last Ninja series. All right, Daz, I'm going to ask you a very important question now, dude.
Okay.
What's the holy grail of your collection? Actually, this could be a twofold question. It can be, what is your most prized piece, as in like which one is means the most to you, but also what is the one that cost the most, or is worth the most in actual value?
Okay. It means the most to me is probably the C64
Yep.
collection as a whole.
Ah, okay, cool.
Yes, as a whole, because it's from my childhood, and like I said, I just look at the games, I just look at the boxes and the C64 itself, and it just makes me feel happy.
Yeah,
So, and to me, it's priceless.
yeah.
Yeah, there's no way I would ever sell that, ever.
That's going to get
Most
passed
val-
down
Yeah.
to your children's children, children's
Yep.
children's children, until the
I hope
discs, till the discs don't work anymore and the plastic
Yeah.
is destroyed, and yeah.
Yeah, I hope they just don't. I hope they do keep it. But okay, most valuable. Okay, if I was to limit to one item, is that what you're saying? Just
Yes.
one item. Oh God.
Most valuable, yeah, the one that's worth the most, cost wise, like dollar value.
Is it how much I paid or what it's worth now?
Are they both the same? No, they wouldn't be, would they? No, how much
Okay.
it's worth now? What is the
Okay. All right, I'll give you two. The most I paid for was Popful Mail
Okay.
on the Sega CD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that probably cost me the most. And I know it's worth a lot more now. A game that I bought back in the day that's worth drug money now, is absolutely stupid money, would probably have to be the Punisher on the Mega Drive.
Yes, no, I've seen that on eBay for silly dollars.
Well, I bought that for $20 back when I was starting to collect.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Gosh.
I've actually got a few like that because the Mega Drive, and it's funny enough. I mean, I could say about the C64 as well because a lot of people will sell those things for stupid prices, the games. But Mega Drive wise, I have a lot that's worth a lot now, and I didn't pay much for them. I know the Fantasy Star series sells for a lot of money,
Yeah.
and I
yeah.
got them for next to nothing. Again, the Castlevania New Generation,
Mm-hmm.
Fatal Fury 2. Wow, I'm looking here. Oh, yeah, there's a few there. I've been quite lucky with Mega Drive because I did start so early. I mean, I've got Golden Axe 3 that sells for stupid money.
Mm.
Um,
And it only came out in Japan, didn't it?
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And me, I buy any region. I mean, because my Mega Drives are all modded. So, I mean, like I said, if I buy a game, it's to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not because of what it's worth or anything. I mean, so, like, for example, I'll buy, I've got Streets of Rage 2. I've got the Hong Kong version. That cost me $15. I wasn't going to pay $40-$50 for that. Do you know what I mean? For the same game. I don't care if it's worth less.
Yeah.
I just want to play the damn thing. So
are you quite diligent about being complete in box as well, or are you just like, as long as I've got the cart and I've got the box, or even if I've just got the cartridge, I don't,
cartridge, no, I don't like that.
Okay.
Depending on the game, I'm not so fussed about the manual, but I do prefer the manual. But I won't be put off on a sale if it's a game I really want, and if it's got no manual, oh well, bad luck.
Yeah.
I'll just buy it anyway, and I can always source the manual later, and I've been lucky that way. Sometimes I've ended up buying a game cheaper complete if I've bought it separate. Right. Pieces.
In terms of how you collect, then, do you tend to try and do more sort of physical pickups in terms of like do garage sales, that kind of stuff, or do you jump on eBay?
eBay. I'm on eBay. Yeah, I don't have time to go to garage sales and all. If I'm out somewhere and there's a market or something, that's fine. But I won't get up early in the morning and go to a garage sale and look. I mean, I might miss out on a lot of good deals, but I just don't have the time. I don't love the hobby enough for me to lose sleep. Does that make sense?
Fair enough. Fair enough, man.
I love my sleep. You know what I mean? I love my time.
Yeah.
Like I said, for me, it's about family more or less, and the gaming, as much as I love it, that comes second. So
yeah. That's cool, man.
But it's all eBay. I can shop from my phone. I mean, who else? That's the best thing.
Yep. We're all guilty of that. I mean, the worst thing is like drunk buying. I've done that a couple of times where I'm like in the morning I'm like, oh, I now have a nice copy of Splatterhouse 2. I'm really happy about that. But
I've actually got a good story. This is actually quite funny. This is not me per se. It's Matthew Corley. He's probably going to kick my butt if he listens to this. But we were celebrating Tim's birthday one night at his house, and we had a few too many drinks, especially Matthew. And he was watching a Vectrex on eBay with a few games, and he's going, "Oh, should I bid on this?" And we're all drunk, and Tim likes to egg people on. It's like, "Yeah, do it, bid on it," and it was going up and up and up. Last 5 minutes, it was going up to like $500.
Whoa!
Okay. And he got outbid again, and he's like, "Oh, that's too much money." We're like, "Come on, do it! You can do it! You can do it!" He ended up winning, and it was over $600.
Whoa!
And then as soon as he won it, it was like buyer's remorse. It's like, what did I do? And we started laughing at him.
It's buyer's remorse until the actual object arrives on your doorstep, and then you're like, you know what? That was actually a pretty good thing.
Okay, but here's the kicker.
You
ready?
Okay.
Guess who he was bidding against?
Oh no, really? Was it you guys?
No.
No? Okay.
Alex.
Oh really? Oh no.
Yes.
Way.
There was a bidding war between him and Alex. Now, if Alex wasn't bidding, he would have got that for a lot cheaper.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Did Alex know at the time or not? Or
no,
you guys
none of us knew.
Oh,
none of us knew.
There's me thinking you guys were like, because you're all drunk, you're on your phones behind him, just going, quick, bid. But that's brilliant. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Because oh man, because Alex because he's got a Vectrex, and but I presume that would have been his Vectrex. Had he have won the bidding session?
That's exactly right.
Oh my god, that's brilliant.
That's part of the retro domination lore,
right?
There, it's part of our history, and it cracks us up every time. But you know what? In the end, who cares how much he spent on it? He loves it. He enjoys it. So I mean, he got a lot of games with it. So it wasn't that it was that bad. But you know what? I mean, if you really love something, you'll pay anything for it. So
yeah, no, it's true. And the Vectrex is a bloody beautiful machine as well. So so that's money well spent. Was the games, were they boxed or just carts?
Oh, I can't remember. I know, but he got a fair few with it. He did, and it was mint condition. It was really good. It was really clean. So
nice.
And it had to get posted from Tasmania, so that was a bit risky.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Well, hats off to him, man. I still love that. That's this retro game buying peer pressure. That's brilliant.
It's just a small world. It's just quite scary that whenever we bid on eBay, it's usually against someone we know.
Yeah.
We find that after. So yeah.
It is funny how the community is large yet small at the same time.
Exactly.
I haven't gone too crazy in the retro systems. I mean, I only have like a SNES, NES, Mega Drive, Mega CD, Sega Saturn, PlayStation 2, Atari 2600, and a Game Boy. Unless we now consider PlayStation 3 in the retro section, which I think is probably still not. So yeah, but what machines do you have?
Okay. I'm gonna have to look now. ZX Spectrum plus 2, a Mega Drive with Sega CD, an Atari XG. Is it XG, whatever it's called? XGSG. I can't remember what it's called. I rarely play it. It's the Atari 800, you could say.
Okay.
The Super Nintendo NTSC N64, which I think is the only way to play N64.
Okay.
Not a PAL version.
Okay.
It's too slow.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that to do with refresh rates for the video game running and all that kind of stuff. Okay, yeah, cool.
Yep. A Sega Saturn. I'm not going retro here, but this set up a Wii U, a 360, a PS4, a PS2, a PS3, a PC Engine with CD add-on, an Atari 2600 Woody, a Dreamcast, original Xbox modded with lots of goodies in it.
Nice.
An Amstrad CPC, an MSX1, an Amiga 1200, two Commodore 64s, a Commodore 128.
What's your next sort of game or bit of hardware that you're really hoping to get your hands on?
You know what? I think I'm done with console-wise.
Okay, good. That's a good place to be in.
Yeah, I'm done with that. I mean, look, there's always nice to have this little, occasional one that's worth a lot of money. But my holy grail would probably be, I've got 3: a Midnight Resistance arcade machine.
Nice.
A sit-down Chase HQ arcade machine.
Very nice.
And a Theatre of Magic pinball machine.
Oh wow! Okay, okay, cool. Yeah. I'm not too hot on my pennies. I don't really. My penny knowledge is useless, but I do appreciate how much everybody else loves them. I never really kind of got into them, but Chase HQ sit down cab, superb. That would be amazing to have one of those.
I actually passed one up. I passed one up a couple of years ago.
Oh, is it still sting? Is it still a kick that stings?
Oh, a little bit. It wasn't the perfect cab. Like didn't have the decals.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay, I don't really want to spend that money on that. But yeah, he wouldn't go lower. I think I was a bit hard-headed.
Right.
Yeah. So in a way, I regret it a little bit. But oh well. When I did have on the NES, because I did SNES, sorry. When I did collect for that, I did own a copy of Turrican 2 Minty Fresh.
Oh, nice. Oh my gosh.
I sold that off for a lot of money, so I was quite happy with that one.
Oh gosh, yeah, well done. That one, and is it also Mega Turrican as well, or is
I've got that on the Mega Drive.
On the Mega Drive, yeah. Turrican, man. Now, the definitive for me will always be the C64. Turrican.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, was it Manfred Trez was the programmer, creator of Turrican?
Correct.
Did I get that right? Yeah.
Correct.
I read
Chris
somewhere.
Husbeck.
Yeah, I read somewhere that he was a big fan of the 8-bit systems, but never really kind of got on with the 16-bit systems. So
yes, I've heard the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got Turrican. I got Super Turrican on the NES, which I think was the last port. Or was the only port that he was actually involved in. I could be getting that wrong, and I'm sure people will comment and say, "You idiot!" Yeah, I think he was directly involved in that port. I'm not quite sure how involved he was in the other ports. Or Daz, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, our friend
he did do another game.
Okay.
On the Super Nintendo, which I can't remember, Ranger something. I'll get the name. It was only a Japanese release.
Okay.
It's called Rendering Ranger.
Rendering Ranger. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's going to go on the list as well.
So if you're a big Turrican fan, you'll enjoy that.
Okay.
A lot.
Awesome. Okay.
And also there's another one called Gun Lord on the Dreamcast, which is a Turrican-inspired game.
Okay, Gun Lord. Okay, gosh. So many... My bank balance is going to be awful by the end of this month, but the smile on my face will make up for it. Dude, we have to go out with a little bit of nerding out about The Last Ninja.
Okay.
Because, very rarely do I get the opportunity to talk to a fellow fan of the game, believe it or not. I remember my first experience playing it again. This was before I had my own Commodore 64. My friend had The Last Ninja for his Commodore 64, but he had it sort of pirated. So he had it on a cassette that was full of Commodore 64 games. You know, the classic sort of like had the number or where the game began on the cassette.
Yep.
Fast ordered it on the tape player and loaded it up. So that was my first exposure of The Last Ninja. And I think when I eventually got my Commodore 64, I think I eventually got my hands on a big box edition of The Last Ninja 2 when I was a kid. And then obviously when I started collecting, I've just got them now. I've got the original Last Ninja, Last Ninja 2, Last Ninja 3, and Last Ninja Remix. And because I'm from the UK, I have them on cassette, because that's what we had over there. That was, well, we had the discs as well, but they weren't quite as popular as they are over here. So when were you first exposed to the genius, which is The Last Ninja?
I would say, yeah, as a kid as well. My friend had there's a pack here in Australia called the Six Sizzlers. Like everyone had it. Everyone had it here in Australia, and it was a tape. Most of it was like just tapes. You had Last Ninja on there. You had Big Trouble in Little China and a few other games. And I played that on tape as well. Funny enough, at a friend's house. I was like, it's not bad. It's a bit hard, and I loved the music, and I didn't really get into it. And then everything changed when Mr. Marky Sparky from RD introduced me to The Last Ninja 2.
Yeah.
And I had a disc version of that. And that was just wow. Wow. Absolutely phenomenal. And I ended up purchasing that. Then I bought, what's it called? The Last Ninja Remix.
Yep.
Which was the remix version of that. And again, that blew me away even more. I wish that had the original soundtrack on that, but because the graphics did look a bit better.
Yeah.
But it's like, and then I went back to part one, and I felt, it's a bit empty, but then I actually got to play it more and more, and then I appreciate it a lot more now. It's quite difficult. Yeah. I found the controls are really stiff.
Yeah.
Especially if you've played the other ones properly first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think why, because everybody has their favorite Last Ninja game, and I think everybody kind of cites Last Ninja 2 as like the best of the series. Fair enough. There's several arguments for and against. But certainly when it comes to graphics, music, all that kind of stuff, Last Ninja 2 really kind of pops out. And also the fact that, this game came out, is it right, Last Ninja 2? I think that was early 90s or late 80s. I think Last Ninja 1 was 87. And Last Ninja 2
right.
was about
either
89 or 90.
Okay, Last Ninja 2 was... Oh, wow, there's no year on this thing.
I think it's 88 or 89. I think they came out quite... I think Last Ninja 2 followed after Last Ninja 1 quite swiftly, and then the third one actually pushed on into the early 90s, maybe.
Well, Remix was 1990.
Yeah.
But Last Ninja 2 doesn't have a date. Last Ninja 3, I'm looking at the box right now, and that says 91. Actually, part 3 for me is my favourite, funny enough.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, because that's the only part that I've never finished. I just find that one for me is just insanely difficult.
It is.
Play.
It's the most beautiful looking one, though.
Yeah. I found it a little bit sort of confusing. Like the graphics were a bit too much for me, but I do agree. Like in terms of what the Commodore 64 is capable of, that's a really good staple of like, look what the Commodore 64 can still do. But yeah, I just find that one it's hard to get around. I think, but maybe that's just me. I think I'm like you. It was the music of Last Ninja 1 that made me really kind of sit up and go, what is this? This is amazing. There is something incredibly sort of spellbinding about that music, and even though it's very simplistic to look at, but I think the biggest thing that kind of really inspired me about The Last Ninja, the first game, was the atmosphere of that game. The fact you're in like an ancient feudal Chinese world, and you're playing a ninja, and you're crawling around all these kind of palace gardens, and you get to kind of delve into the dungeons, and there's the fact that you can have all these different weapons, from the katana to the stick to the ninja stars, and just the whole mysticism and idea around it just really kind of captured my imagination when I was a kid, and it's kind of just stayed with me. And you know what, actually I think the biggest thing for me is the artwork, the ninja eyes. and just how iconic those ninja eyes are from the original game artwork.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Oh man, but like, because the thing about Last Ninja 2 is it's a brilliant game. I love it as well. But as you get older, you kind of look back at it and go, well, hold on a second. It's about a ninja that's in New York. There is something very 80s action movie about that compared to
that's very true, yeah.
But it works because you don't really think about the plot when you're playing it. You're just like, I'm a ninja in New York. I'm going to do this. Look, why is that New York police officer throwing a shuriken at my face? It doesn't matter.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. Exactly.
But yeah, there's something... Sorry, after you, sir. I have geeked on
I was going to say, before we finish this off, have you ever played Vendetta?
Yes, briefly though, when I was a kid. I haven't played it recently.
Yeah, it's a poor man's version of Last Ninja. It's also by System 3, but I think it's still a great game.
Yeah, it's a completely different story. What is the story about that? Are you just literally a thug out for vengeance, or it's kind of got?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Because what else did they do another isometric style? No, Tusker was a side-scrolling.
Tusker was side-scrolling
adventure, and then obviously Myth was a platform side-scroller. Yeah. Flimbo's Quest was another side-scroller. So was it this Last Ninja and Vendetta? Yeah. No, I actually want to get my hands on a copy of that because I'm trying to collect all the System 3 games for the Commodore 64. And that one I don't have, and Tusker and Flimbo's Quest actually. I'm not doing a very good job of collecting those really.
Yeah. Well, Flimbo's Quest is probably the only one I don't have as System 3 on disc. I've got the rest on disc. Vendetta I got as a kid as well, and Tusker I got as a kid, all on disc. So I was quite lucky I kept those.
Yeah, definitely, because like I think I bought Myth recently, and I think it cost me like £10. Which is pretty good, you know.
On disc?
No, on cassette.
Oh, okay, because disc is quite hard to find.
Yeah. Even like Last Ninja Remix, I didn't realise that's really kind of sought after because my brother got me a copy of that for Christmas a couple of years ago. And now, but even that on cassette is quite sort of, you go on eBay,
really?
That's quite, that's quite pricey to get hold of as well. But, oh man, there's just something about them capturing lightning in a bottle. For me, anyway, those games. But yeah. Anyway, I've nerded out enough, Daz. Thank you so much for being my guest on this episode 2 of my podcast, man. It's been awesome to chat to you, dude. But before we wrap up completely, just hit me with websites, the Retro Domination. Where can they hear the podcast? Where do they visit for the website? Press play on tape. Where do they go and hear that podcast? Hit me with it now.
Okay, well, you can check us out at www.retrodomination.com. There you will get the Retro Domination podcast. The Press Play and Tape podcast is also there. And the +3 to Geekdom podcast. That's if you're really into your geeky stuff, pop culture. Check those guys out. You can also get our podcast at podbean.com and iTunes as well. Please, iTunes, if you are on iTunes and you're listening, if you could please give us a review, that would be awesome.
That's a good plug, dude. I like that. You've rehearsed that, right?
No, we try.
Okay, man. Yeah. Well, look, Daz, thank you so much for chatting to me, dude. I really appreciate it.
That's cool.
I will tune in to Retro Domination podcast very soon.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure. It was great talking to you.
Okay, man. I'll speak to you soon.
All the best. Thanks.
Cheers, dude. Okay, bye.
So there we are. That was a great chat with a great guy. Thank you ever so much, Darren from Retro Domination, for spending time with me in episode 2 of the podcast. Now then, I still need people to talk to. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast and you are a fellow retro game collector, please get in touch if you fancy having a chat with me on one of these episodes. I'm desperate to talk to you. I love chatting to other retro collectors, so if you've enjoyed this podcast, if you're a fellow collector, please drop me a line, either on the Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/hadthat@12, and that's the number 12, not the spelling of 12, or hit me up on Twitter at @BenCampbell. Love to hear from you. I tend to record these podcasts over Skype. They normally take about an hour or so, and it's very relaxed chit chat. So if you fancy being on an ep, please drop me a line. And also, please do like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube page, subscribe to the SoundCloud. Your support, your listenership means a lot to me. So thank you ever so much for listening, guys and girls. This is your friend Ben Campbell saying goodbye, take care, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.